You may be wondering why I'm holding up these note cards right now. Well, they are going to be very important to you in public speaking, and they're also a requirement to have in public speaking, but I'll get to that later. Hey guys, I'm Shannon Rowe, and today I'm going to tell you what to expect in public speaking. You may have been a little nervous when you found out you needed to take this class. I know I was, and a majority of my other classmates were too. I began to realize that at the end of the semester, this was one of my favorite classes and that it was really useful. According to WordPress.org in 2013, oral communication skills were the #1 skill college graduates found they had in the business world, according to a study done by sociologist Andrew Zucker. So that goes to show you that public communication skills are really important no matter what profession you go into. Whether you talk to a couple people a day or thousands, you're still communicating, and it's really important to have public speaking. So as you can imagine, you're going to do a variety of speeches in this class. I'm going to tell you what I think are the most important speeches. I'm going to tell you about impromptu speeches, informative podcast, and persuasive speech. Alright, so first up, the impromptu speech. What exactly is an impromptu speech? An impromptu speech is a 1 to 2 minute long speech, and you only have a certain amount of time to prepare. When I say certain amount of time to prepare, I mean about 5 to 6 minutes long. You're going to go into class and Dr. Rowe is going to give you a topic. They're usually pretty silly and funny, and you only have a certain amount of time to write down on a note card what you want to say in your speech. That's why it's always important to bring your note cards to class, because when giving these speeches, you're allowed one note card. You should only write down just some quick things that you want to say while giving this speech. Everyone's a little nervous when they give this speech, which is normal, but I promise you, you will notice a drastic change from when you first started giving impromptu speeches to the end. You're going to notice that you're so much more comfortable and confident talking to your classmates. You'll notice your classmates are too. And you better get used to this because you're going to give a lot of impromptu speeches in this class. But giving impromptu speeches is actually really important because you never know when later in life you're going to have to give a speech and you might only have a few minutes to prepare for it. So I think that those speeches were really important. The next type of speech you're going to do in this class is an informative podcast. It sounds just like what it is. You're going to inform your classmates about a topic of your choosing that you find interesting. If you don't find it interesting, we're not going to find it interesting. So podcast means you're going to record yourself. You're going to use a software called Audacity. The speech only needs to be 4 to 6 minutes long, so it's not bad. Now, when recording yourself, make sure to use vocal variety. Don't talk monotone, because if you don't sound like you're interested in what you're talking about, we're not going to find it interesting either. When giving this speech, you are going to use 3 oral source citations. You'll learn how to do that because Dr. O is awesome. So you'll learn how to do that later in the semester. Also, you're going to need to use organizational patterns, which again, you'll learn later in the semester. But one example I can give you of an organizational pattern would be symmetry. That means that each main point in your speech is the same length long. Now, the next speech I want to talk to you about is the persuasive speech. This is the most important speech you're going to give. It's worth the most points, and it's your last speech. It also is 5 to 6 minutes long, which is a lot longer than your other speeches you have to do. Now, it sounds just like what it's called, persuasive. You need to persuade your classmates in a controversial topic of your choosing. Now, just think about it. Politicians do this all the time when they're campaigning. They want the public to be informed about what they're talking about and persuade them to be on their side. Now, just like with the informative speech, you need to have a couple oral source citations, which again, you'll learn how to do. Now, something different about this speech is the speaker triangle. What is a speaker triangle? You need to walk and talk at the same time. It really isn't that bad. Just remember to practice and remember to walk and talk at the same time. Don't stop talking once you begin walking to your next point, because that can get a little awkward. So always remember to walk and talk and practice that. Lastly, you're allowed to use 2 note cards for this speech. But by this point, you might not even want note cards because you might feel prepared enough. Now, one tip I want to leave you guys with is to always practice. Practice is really important for this class, so you seem prepared and so you know what you're talking about. One thing I don't recommend doing is only practicing the night before the speech is supposed to be given. Don't do that. And don't not practice at all, because your classmates, and especially Dr. Roll, will notice if you are not prepared enough for your speech, and you do not want to be that person. Alright, so today I have told you what to expect in Dr. Rowe's public speaking class. I told you about what I think are the 3 most important speeches you're going to do in this class and why. I told you about the impromptu speech, the informative podcast, and the persuasive speech. So take a deep breath, put on a brave face, and enjoy public speaking.